My name is Aruj Bansal, and today we'll be looking at the problem print subarray. It has a difficulty level of Cakewalk, and there are no prerequisites required to solve it. Let's now take a look at the problem statement. So this problem has a pretty short statement, and let's go ahead and read it. We are given an array A of n integers as input, and we are also given two other integers L and R. We have to print the subarray from L through R. And let's also take a look at the constraints. So n can go up to 10 to the power 6. The absolute value of the array values is more than equal to 10 to the power 9. And L and R are less than or equal to n. Now let's take a look at our sample input, and I'll explain what the problem is asking us to do. So this is our sample input. N is equal to 4. Our array elements are 2, 3, minus 1, and 2. L is equal to 1 and R is equal to 3. So the problem was we have to print the subarray from index 1 through index 3. So what is a subarray? So a subarray is just a contiguous array within another array. Contiguous means that elements occur one after another. So for example, 3 and minus 1, this form the subarray. 2, 3, 1, minus 2, 3, minus 1, these form a subarray. 3 minus 1 and 2, these form a subarray. Minus 1 and 2, these form a subarray. So any continuous selection of elements from any array, they form a subarray. And that also means that we can delete 0 or more elements from the left side or 0 or more elements from the right side, so that we have a continuous array formed within another array. And so we have to print the subarray from index 1 through index 3. And here that is simply 2, 3, and minus 1. So if this is index 1, 2, 3, 4, then we have to print this subarray. And within this, for example, if we had to print the subarray from L is equal to 2 to R is equal to 4, then we would have printed 3 minus 1 and 2, because that would be this subarray. If we had to print the subarray from L is equal to 3 to R is equal to 3, then we would have just printed the single element, because this is still a subarray. And let's take a look at another one. If we had to print the subarray from 2 to 3, then we would have printed 3 and minus 1, because this is the subarray with the starting index equal to 2 and the ending index equal to R. So for the sample case, the output is 2, 3, minus 1, because L is equal to 1 and R is equal to 3. So this problem is just designed to test whether you have knowledge of basic programming syntax, and there aren't any observations or anything. We just have to print a subarray. So let's take a look at some code to actually do this in both Python and C++. So this is Python code for this problem. We take in n, we take in the array, and then we read in L and R. And so what is this particular line doing? So to take an input in Python, we have this very handy shorthand way of doing it. So we basically take in input, we read in the array as a single string. So if it was 2, 3, minus 1, and 4, or any other array, then we would have read it in as a string. Python would have stored it as a string. And then when we call the split method on it, these are white spaces. So what it does is Python converts all of those white spaces and removes them. So then it will remove this white space, this white space, and this white space. And after that, we would have these individual components. So we would have a 2, we would have a 3, we would have a minus 1, we would have a 4, and these would still be of the string data type. So they would still be strings. And then what we do is we use map to make them integers. What map does is it'll take every single element here, which is a string, and it'll apply the int typecast to it. And then all of them will become integers, and then we just store them as a Python list. Now after that, we stored our array in zero-based indexing. So the first element of our array appears at index 0, then index 1, then index 2, and so on up till index n-1. So to account for that, we also have to decrement L and R by 1. And after that, we simply loop over the array from index L to index R. So in Python, if you loop up to R plus 1, then the last index you will visit is R and not actually R plus 1. And so we print the array element, and we end with a white space instead of a new line, because in Python, the print statement by default prints a new line. Now let's take a look at some code for this in C++. So it's pretty similar here. We have n as given as input. Then we have the array. We store the array using a loop. And then we take in L and R again. We subtract them by 1. And after that, we simply just print the array from index L to index R. And we also have to print the element at index R. So it's less than or equal to, and not just less than. Or we could also have done I is less than R plus 1. Pretty simple here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look at some error codes. So what I did was, in the main problem page over here, I went over to all submissions and I picked out codes which gave errors. And now we're going to go over them so that you don't make these errors when you're practicing. So this submission is one I made. I deliberately made this submission to show you what a possible error could look like. And in this submission, if you notice, then I haven't decreased L and R by 1. And that has actually given me a wrong answer over here. And so what could happen? Suppose we had the input array 2, 3, -1, and 4, and L was equal to 2 and R was equal to 4. So this is valid input. And now what we did is we stored our array using zero-based indexing. But L and R, they're still one-based indexed. So the last index of our array is actually index number 3. And we don't have any index with number 4. And if we try to access index number 4, so in this loop, if we try to access index number 4, then that gives us a runtime error because it doesn't exist. And the size of the array is still 4, so it doesn't exist, and we get a runtime error. And so you can see that we get a wrong answer. Let's take a look at another submission. And so reading through submissions is a good idea because it helps you improve your debugging skills. And if you get any errors, then you might also be able to figure out what you did wrong. Now let's take a look at this submission. So this person has declared the variables first, which is all right. Then that person takes in n. That person declares the array. That person inputs the array. Then inputs L and R. J loops from L-1 up to R-1 because we have smaller than R, which is okay because this is the same thing as doing L-, and R-, which by the way is also equivalent to L- equals 1 and R- equals 1. And so the person prints the array, and let's see what verdict the person got. So it's a wrong answer. Now, why did that happen? this person actually didn't print an empty space. So all the array elements, they would have appeared together in this person's solution. So for example, if the array was 2, 3, minus 1, 4, we had to print from index 1 to 2. Then this person would have printed 2, 3 instead of 2 space 3, which is again gives us a wrong answer because the computer wants the exact output. Let's take a look at some more error codes. This time the person has taken in n, l, and r, defined the array, taken in the array values, and then printed the array values. So now there are actually two things wrong here. One is that, first of all, we can only take L and R as input after we've taken the array. So we have to put that after the array because that's when we receive it in the input. And the second issue here is, even if that was correct, this person is looping from L to R, which is 1 indexed. But the array here is 0 indexed. So there are two issues in this code. And again, that's a wrong answer. And now this code. So this one should be easy to see. This person has prompted the computer for input, and we should never do that in competitive programming. We should only input and output exactly what is written in the problem statement. So this will clearly receive a wrong answer. And we have one more submission to look at. So this person defined n, l, and r, defined the array of size n, inputted n. So I can see something wrong in these 3 lines. So this person actually inputted n after declaring the array of size n. At this time, the value of n is unknown. And so this gives a runtime error because the compiler doesn't know what value to assign to it. And so it doesn't matter whether the rest of the code is correct. This part alone is wrong. So this statement would actually go after this. All right, so what's the final time complexity of our code? Let's go back to my submission. We can see that in this submission, we access each element of our array at most twice. And because we access each element at most twice, the time complexity will simply be O of n. It'll be linear. So I hope you enjoyed solving this problem. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also give a like to this video. And I'll see you in the next one.